for championship points. Alex Eala had 4 championship points in that Eastbourne final 12 months ago, and she lost every single one of them. My round match at Wimbledon so fascinating isn't that it's a rematch, it's that both players have lived entire lifetimes since that afternoon. One of them ascended into the best grass court stretch of her career. The other fell off a cliff. And now they're meeting again on the biggest lawn in tennis. And the question isn't just who wins, it's whether either of them can forget what happened last time long enough to play the match in front of them instead of the one in their heads. Let me set the scene properly. Alex Eala is the 29th seed. First Filipino player ever seeded at a Grand Slam. She dismantled Renata Zarazua 6-1, 6-2 in the opening round. Barely broke a sweat on court 12. The crowd was electric. Filipino fans making noise like it was a basketball game back in Manila. Eala looked locked in from the first point. Her left-handed serve was sliding away from Zarazua all afternoon, and her footwork, the thing that separates her from other players at her ranking, was immaculate. She moved like she'd grown up on the surface. Mayajoint, on the other side of the net, just lived through a center court fever dream. She beat Serena Williams. Let that sink in. A 20-year-old Australian who came into Wimbledon with a 3-15 record in 2026, and I'm not exaggerating, 3 wins and 15 losses this season, walked onto the most famous tennis court in the world and defeated a 7-time champion in 3 sets. Joint won 6-3, 6-7, 6-3, and in her post-match interview she could barely string sentences together. I really don't know what to say right now. I don't know what just happened, to be honest. That was her actual quote. She said she'd been up until 2 a.m. the night before just thinking about the match. Her legs weren't moving in warm-up. She forgot the warm-up routine entirely. And then she won. So, here's the setup. The player who's been rolling through the grass court swing with a title in Birmingham, a semi-final in Berlin, where she beat both Rybakina and Svitolina back-to-back, and a clean dismantling in round 1 versus the player who's had the worst season of her young career, but just pulled off maybe the most emotionally supercharged win of her life against a living legend. How do you even begin to weigh that? Let's start with the thing that's changed most dramatically since Eastbourne 2025. Alex Eala's grass court game isn't the same product. Last summer was her second real season on the surface. She'd qualified into events, scraped through matches, and arrived at the Eastbourne final having exceeded everyone's expectations, including probably her own. The championship points she squandered, and squandered is the right word. She had opportunities and couldn't take them, reflected a player who wasn't yet sure she belonged at that altitude. This year she walked into Birmingham as the top seed of a WTA 125 event and won the whole thing. Beat Nikola Bartunkova from a set down in the final, 5-7, 6-3, 7-5, showed the kind of 3-set composure that she simply didn't have a year ago. Then she went to Berlin, a WTA 500 genuine top-tier field, and beat Elena Rybakina in the second round before taking down Alina Svitolina in the quarters, 6-3, 6-4. That's a top 5 player and a top 8 player in consecutive rounds on grass. She eventually lost to Linda Noskova in the semis, 6-2, 6-4, but the damage had already been done to her confidence in the best possible way. She arrived at Wimbledon knowing she could compete with the best players in the world on this surface. Her grass court record coming into this match sits around 15-8 for her career, including qualifying. And for 2026 specifically, Birmingham title, Berlin semi-final, dominant first-round win here. She's on a run that suggests she's not just capable on grass anymore. She's becoming a specialist. Now look at my Joe Conta 2026. It's been brutal. After reaching a career-high ranking of 28 in February, everything collapsed and Achilles issue limited her at the start of the year. Then a lower back injury forced her to withdraw from Indian Wells mid-match. She was out for 2 months, missing the entire clay swing, and only returned in Rome in May. Since then, she's accumulated loss after loss. First-round exit at Eastbourne, on the same grass where she won the title 12 months earlier. Her ranking has tumbled from 28 to 87. The form line says she's one of the worst-performing players on tour this season. But here's the thing about form lines. They don't account for the adrenaline dump of beating Serena Williams on center court at Wimbledon. They don't capture what it means to snap an 11-match losing streak against a legend in front of 15,000 people who expected your opponent to cruise through. Konta's body language shifted visibly during the Williams match. There were moments in the second set where she looked lost, where Serena was building momentum and the crowd was turning and Konta appeared to shrink. And then she found something. In the third set, she broke at 2-2 and ran away with it. She won 11 of 12 points at one stage. That's not the performance of someone who's broken. So the analytical question becomes, which version of my joint shows up on Wednesday? The one who's been losing first round matches to players ranked below her all season, or the one who just discovered, on the biggest court in tennis, that she can still compete under extraordinary pressure? Let me tell you what I think decides this match, and it's not what you might expect. It's the left-handed serve. IGA's serve on grass is a weapon that doesn't get enough attention. As a lefty, her slice serve out wide in the deuce court pulls right-handed opponents off the court in a way that's geometrically awkward to recover from on a fast surface. On grass, where the ball stays low and skids through, a left-handed slice isn't just an inconvenience, it's a structural problem for the returner. Joint is right-handed, and her movement this season has been compromised by the back issues. Even against Williams, a lefty herself, Joint's return positioning was inconsistent. She saved break points with serves rather than returns. Now, IGA isn't a power server in the traditional sense. She averages less than one ace per match in 2026. But she doesn't need aces. What she needs is free points on the first ball after serve, and that's what the geometry gives her. Pull Joint wide with the slice, then step around and drive the forehand into the open court. That pattern worked against Sarah Sorabi's Tormo with brutal efficiency, and against Joint, who's not moving as fluidly as she did last year, it could be devastating. On the return side, IGA breaks serve more than almost anyone at her level. She's averaging over 4 breaks per match this year. That's not just aggressive return positioning, it's concentration, it's shot selection on the second serve, and it's the patience to construct the point from the return position rather than panic hitting. Against Joint serve, which has been inconsistent under pressure this season, Eala's return discipline could create scoreboard pressure early. And early pressure against someone riding an emotional high is different from early pressure against someone in settled form. The come down from beating Serena Williams is real. Here's where it gets interesting tactically. Goff's best weapon on grass is her flat ball striking. When she's timing it right, she can take the ball early off both wings and rush opponents into errors. She did this effectively against Williams in the first and third sets, keeping the rally short, taking pace from Williams' serve and redirecting it. Against Eala, who generates heavy topspin from the left side, but doesn't serve with Williams' level pace, Goff will need to manufacture her own pace. That's harder. It requires footwork, setup time, and confidence in shot selection, all things that have been intermittent for her this season. The matchup also turns on rally length. Eala wins break points at a higher rate in shorter rallies because of her first strike capability off serve. But in extended rallies, Goff showed against Williams that she can hang. She won a 21-shot rally in that match, the longest of the day. If Goff can neutralize Eala's serve advantage and get into cross-court exchanges from the baseline, she's got the ball speed to make it competitive. The question is whether Eala's variety, the slice, the angles, the willingness to come forward, she's averaging 8.5 net points won per match this year, gives her enough escape routes when Goff starts timing the ball. I also want to address the emotional dimension because it's impossible to ignore. A year ago, Goff broke Eala's heart for championship points. Eala was the better player for large stretches of that Eastbourne final and still lost in the super tiebreak. There's a thread from yesterday where Filipino fans are still talking about not being able to sleep that night. This is a neutral territory for either player. Eala knows she let that one slip. Joint knows that on grass, she's already beaten this opponent when it mattered most. But, and this is critical, the context is reversed. In Eastbourne, Joint was the one with nothing to lose. She was the young qualifier playing above expectations. Eala carried the weight of being the better-ranked, higher-profile player. Now, Ella is the 29th seed. She's supposed to win this match. Joint is ranked 87th and coming off a catastrophic season. And yet, Joint just beat Serena Williams. So, who carries the psychological burden here? Ella, because she's expected to advance? Or Joint, because she's exhausted an impossible amount of emotional energy 2 days ago and now has to summon it again against someone who's fresher, sharper, and has an actual grudge? I think the answer is either. I think this match is decided by legs. Physical, literal legs. Joint played for over 2 hours against Williams on center court. She dealt with a back that's been fragile all year. She ran on adrenaline and nervous energy for 3 sets against a player who, even at 44, still hits with terrifying weight. Ella was on court for barely an hour against Cerezo. She's had an extra day of rest. Her body hasn't been through a 2026 injury crisis. Her fitness across the grass swing has been consistent, Birmingham to Berlin to Wimbledon without any physical red flags. On a surface where the points are short, but the explosive movement required is extreme, constant split stepping, lunging for low volleys, changing direction on a dime to cover the angles that grass opens up. Tired legs show. They show in the serve speed dropping in the second set. They show in the half-step late on wide balls that would have been winners a set earlier. They show in the decision to stay on the baseline when the right play is to come forward because coming forward requires energy you don't have. I read on this match, Ella wins and she probably wins in straight sets. Not because Joint isn't talented. Not because the Serena win doesn't matter. But because Ella is playing the best grass court tennis of her life. Because the tactical geometry favors her lefty serve against the compromised mover. And because the residue of beating Serena Williams, the emotional crash, the physical cost, the media attention, the sleepless nights that Joint herself admitted to, works against you when you face someone clinical enough to exploit it. I'll say 6-3, 6-4 Ella. Joint will have moments, probably early. Probably in the first 3 or 4 games when the crowd energy from her first-round heroics still lingers and her body hasn't yet started telling her uncomfortable truths. But Ella will break through. She'll find the wide serve. She'll find the forehand into the open court. And she'll pull away. And if I'm wrong, if Joint produces the fire she found against Williams for a second consecutive match, then what we're witnessing isn't a lucky run. It's a career reset happening in real time at Wimbledon. And the 3-15 record becomes the story of a girl who was injured, not a girl who lost her game. But I don't think I'm wrong. For those of you wanting to watch this live, ESPN has full coverage across their platforms. ESPN, ESPN2, and the ESPN app for streaming in the United States. In the Philippines, Spot carries Wimbledon coverage. UK viewers have the BBC. Australia has Stan Sport. The second round is scheduled for July 1st to 2nd, and this match is expected to land on Wednesday, July 2 ND. Check the Wimbledon order of play the evening before for the specific court assignment and start time. But given Ella's seeding and the storyline coming off Jabeur's first-round upset, don't be surprised if they put this on a show court. It deserves the stage. One last thought. A year ago, Alex Eala stood at the net in Eastbourne with the title within arm's reach and watched it dissolve. She went home. She worked through it. She won Birmingham. She beat top 10 players in Berlin, and she showed up at Wimbledon as a seed. Tomorrow, she gets the chance to walk to that exact same net against that exact same opponent. And this time, shake hands on her own terms. In tennis, you don't always get the rematch. You don't always get the redemption arc served up on a platter with the scheduling gods cooperating. Ella got both. What she does with it will tell us whether the grass court version of this player is for real or whether my Jabeur still lives in her head. I know which one I'm betting on.